All right, we'll definitely go ahead on and get started. Well, hello everyone, and thank you all for joining us. Our special edition Back to School Power Hour. I'm Patrice Jordan, Coordinator of Community Relations and Engagement. I'm going to give just a little history of why we are hosting the virtual series for Power Hour. Because of the pandemic, of course, we had to change our ways to connect and engage with our member owners. When we used to host an in-person straight talk forums within our service area to connect and engage with our membership and educate them on programs and services that benefits them as member owners. These forums were led by our board members. We also hosted Roanoke Partners for Progress meetings, led by our executive team members, as we continue to build partnerships within our community organizations and engage our community members with issues surrounding our communities. But today, we decided to do a special edition on back to school, promoting education and the questions that you all may have with the students returning back to the classroom for in-person instructions this month. We are here today to address any concerns or questions you may have regarding those changes that are in store for the upcoming school year. For many students, this will be the first time with them returning back to the classroom since last year. And with the new Delta variant and another one that's out called Lambda, it's spreading and our vaccination rates are lagging in our states. We are aware that there is plenty of uncertainties about the students returning back to school this year. And we have some great speakers on our roundtable discussion and on our panel that will address those concerns. And this is going to be moderated by our president and CEO, Mr. Curtis Wrenn. So right now, definitely use the chat box for any questions. We will be glad to answer those for you all. Now, I would like to ask everyone if they could turn off your camera and mute your microphone. Our meeting will be recorded and you will be able to view it at a later date via our website and social media page. And we ask that you share that as well to others that are not in attendance today. But before I start, I'm going to introduce our board member, Mr. Columbus Jeffers, to come and give the invocation. Mr. Jeffers has served District 1 on the Roanoke Electric Co-op Board since 2011. He's a native of Halifax. He graduated from Halifax County Technical Institute, where he studied business administration. For 38 years, he worked at Dominion Energy and retired as a senior safety coordinator. In addition to his role at Roanoke Electric, he serves as a board member and president of the Tar Heel Electric Membership Corporation. He also served as past chairman of the Halifax Community College Alumni Association. He attends First Baptist Church in Roanoke Rapids, where he previously serves as chairman of the Deacon Board and continues to be actively involved in its outreach ministry. For the past 20 years, he has adopted an elderly person in a local rest home where he offers transportation and friendly visits and other necessities that's needed. As for the co-op's future, he hopes Roanoke Electric continues to strive for affordability, not only for electricity, but also for broadband services. He's confident that Roanoke will continue to provide products and services that meet the needs of our member owners and stand out as a pillar in the surrounding communities. So now I'll turn it over to Mr. Jeffers to come and do our invocation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us bow. Our Heavenly Father, we are so grateful unto you for all the wonderful things that you do for us. Father, we ask your blessings upon your people. Lord, we're thankful for allowing us to have this meeting today, Father. And we ask blessings upon all of our guests and those that are on this meeting. Father God, we thank you for Roanoke Electric and all that it is doing for our community. God, continue to bless us all and bless our speakers and keep us all in your care. This is our prayer in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffers, for that invocation. Now I'm going to go ahead on and turn it into Mr. Wrenn's hand.
Thank you, Patrice, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to have our distinguished panel with us today. We're going to go ahead and get right into the roundtable fireside chat, if you will. and talk about the subject that Patrice mentioned earlier. I won't go into long, detailed introductions of our panelists. I will get them to actually tell you a little bit about themselves as they come up and do introductory remarks. And we do by name. We have Dr. Cunningham, Eric Cunningham, Superintendent of Halifax County Schools, Dr. Barry Williams, the Superintendent of Gates County Schools, and also from our North Carolina Department of Public Information, Chief Information Officer, Dr. Vanessa Wrenn. I don't know a lot about Dr. Wrenn's responsibilities, but let me say just a couple things about, one thing about the superintendents. And I know Dr. Wrenn has a lot of responsibilities in her area of care at the state level. But I'll just say that as the head of Roanoke Electric and the 3 subsidiary companies that we run, I have a lot of responsibility in that role. But every time I have a bad day, I think about what Dr. Cunningham and Dr. Williams have to go through to make things good for the students and the parents and the personnel who are in the education business. They have a lot of responsibility, and I totally respect what they do. And I'm so happy today to have them come on and share with us some of their strategies, some of the things that they're doing to get ready for this upcoming and quite unique school year that we're about to witness. So let me first call on Dr. Wrenn, and then we'll go with Dr. Williams and Dr. Cunningham to give some opening remarks about themselves. And the first question is from your perspective, kind of tell us how you envision this school year looking from your area of responsibility and your perspective. So Dr. Wrenn, if you would start us off.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wynn. I am Vanessa Wrenn. I am the Chief Information Officer for the Department of Public Instruction. And just so you have an understanding of my background, my lens as an educator.
To interrupt you, but do you want to bring your camera on so we can see it?
I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
I just think it's important for everyone to understand that my lens at the Department of Education as an educator, I started out as a high school teacher. I was a career technical teacher, as a matter of fact, and taught high school for several years, and then became a principal and then district office administrator and a CIO at the district level. And so everything I do here is through the lens of the challenges of Dr. Williams and also Dr. Jeffers, and I'm sorry, not Dr. Jeffers, I'm sorry, Dr. Cunningham, definitely through that lens of what are you faced with? What are your challenges? What I think school is going to look like this year is we must be agile. I feel like there's going to be quite a bit of enthusiasm from parents and students and our teachers to be back on a traditional school schedule where our children are actually on campus every day. But I also think that we're also anticipating a lot of agility in what that looks like. And I think you'll probably hear a lot about that when you hear from our 2 superintendents on the call today. But I also know that what all of our educators, parents, and our students just experienced over the last 17 months has given them a tremendous skill set that we get to pull on this year. And the saying that the tide raises all boats certainly does. Our teachers and our students and our parents had to become engaged with each other at a whole new level as we were in remote instruction. So I believe that skill set that they've had to pull on, we should see some of the benefits of that this upcoming school year. My role at Department of Public Instruction is to oversee all digital teaching and learning, instructional technology, technical components, school business modernization, data and reporting. So I touch a little bit of everything outside of curriculum that touches our children. And so I think one of the most critical things that we have to think about as we prepare for this year is, what did our children experience? How did that impact them? And how is that going to prepare them this year, and us being sensitive to that?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wrenn. And Dr. Cunningham and Dr. Williams, if you want to bring your cameras on, that will be fine. And we will go ahead with Dr. Williams next to give us his perspective tell us a little bit about yourself and your perspective of what this year is going to look like for you up in Gates County.
Well, hello, everyone, and hello, Dr. Wynn. Glad to be here, honored to be aboard with a good group of educators right here. I didn't follow the traditional route to education. I dropped out of school, and so I worked on the railroad, Norfolk Southern Railway, and so I did that for about 10 years, but one of the colleagues on the railroad asked me if I would help him teach his son, in mathematics. He was having a little trouble. And so I helped him, kind of got the itch. I went back to school and I got my bachelor's in biology and minor in chemistry. And then I went on and got, to be a teacher and football coach and basketball coach and all those things. Then went to Virginia Tech, got administrative, my master's. And then I got into administration, assistant principal. And then I told my wife I want to be a superintendent. And she said, that is just great. And I said, but I want to be a superintendent in Colorado. So we flew across the country, got my doctorate in administration as well. And then back in 2017, I got a law degree. So when my mother and father told me, you need to go to school, make something out of yourself, I think I did it too late, but I finally listened to them. So anyway, so here I am in a seat, and nobody at Virginia Tech taught me how to operate a school system effectively in a pandemic. And I'm sure Dr. Cunningham would tell you that too as well. How do I see the school year? Well, we opened the school year with teachers coming back this past Monday with convocation. And in convocation, I'm usually the speaker. And so what I spoke about was about being positive. And, I thought we were at that proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, but apparently we're not. After listening to Dr. Mandy Cohen yesterday, we have the highest number of cases in North Carolina. I believe it's up to about 5,000 and some. And so there's some concern. The governor putting out recommendations to school board chairs that they should, require a universal masking. But I am tickled to death that, we are starting the school, just like Dr. Wrenn at DPI. I'm going to remain positive. I'm going to remain optimistic. You can go through life in the future and you can look at 2 F's. One of those F's is fear, or the other one is faith. And so I feel like in Gates County schools, we're going to operate with faith and be optimistic and hopeful. And we'll, as a school board, voted right before the CDC put out this new Strong Schools Toolkit that we're going to wear masks and we're going to be safe, because the #1 priority in Gates County schools and Halifax and all schools is students and their safety. And so we're 5 days, we're face to face, we will wear a mask, we're going to remain with that 3-foot social distancing, we're going to continue to do what we do and do it at a highly effective rate and make sure that these kids that we teach graduate and they're an asset to the community and they bring value to our system, to our county, to our state, to our nation, and to the world. So lots more to add on to that, but I want to hand it over the baton to you, Dr. Wynn.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We appreciate that. Last but not least, Dr. Cunningham, we'll call on you to do the same, a little bit about yourself and how you see this upcoming school year from your perspective.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I hope that everyone is doing well out there and being safe. This is not anything that we should be playing with. In Halifax County Schools, when I am the proud superintendent for Halifax County Schools, and I'm actually entering my 6th year at the helm in Halifax. I see I'm surrounded by all these Hokies because I'm actually a Cavalier. Wahoo wah. It's all good. But I bring you greetings from Virginia, in which opportunity brought me here to Halifax County. I'm a former basketball player from Liberty University, and that's how I made it through school. And I used that athleticism to get me to where I am today. And that has really shaped a lot of what I do as a superintendent. We began the school year with our convocation, as Dr. Williams just said. So we bring everyone together. And during that convocation, I always bring up a theme. This year's theme is slow and steady. If we were on the Starship Enterprise, I foresee us going into an asteroid belt. And how do you navigate successfully through that asteroid belt? Slow and steady. And that is the type of pace that I'm going to take Halifax on this year. Now, we've always planned on this event being a 2-year event. When you listen to the early reports back in 2020, they said that it was going to mutate. It is mutated. They said we were going to have to wear masks. We are still wearing masks. So my initial messaging from 2020 has always been that this is going to be much longer than we definitely anticipate. So we're not caught by surprise here in Halifax, because we are, and one of the things that I'm not proud about is that we were the first school system to lose an administrator, Mr. Tyson Patterson. And it's been a year since he passed. He's gone, but he will never be forgotten. With that being said, we are starting the year off fully masked. We are providing weekly COVID testing that parents can opt in for their children. And we're also going to be establishing our schools as vaccination clinics. So we're adding as many layers of support and safety to all of our staff, So we will know how this virus is spreading and how we need to pivot to deal with it. Overall, we're seeing our students return. We're going through open houses right now. So that's why I have this shirt on. I'm in the field. So we're out meeting parents and greeting parents and showing them that we have implemented all of the necessary protocols in Halifax County. See, a dream without a plan is nothing but a wish to us. A dream with a plan is a vision. And our vision is to keep everyone safe throughout this year and get us all to the other side. Mr. Wrenn. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cunningham. One of the things you told me when you and I were chatting one day is, and then it tells me how committed you are to what you do. You told me you got on the bus one morning about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and you rode the entire route just to see what it was like for the students. So I want to talk a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the mobility subject and how you see that shaping up. And I'll just, while you've got the mic, Dr. Cunningham, I'll go right back to you, and Dr. Williams, you can go next. And then Dr. Wrenn, I'd like for you to just maybe, if there's some level of connectivity that's involved with that you'd like to add to that, please comment on that. But Dr. Cunningham, talk to us about transportation and mobility, if you would.
When you look at the geography, and I will, sir, when you look at the geography of Halifax County schools, it's 732 square miles with water, when you include water. So we have a huge connectivity issue because we're spread out so thin. And what COVID has taught us is that until we address the connectivity gap, our kids will not learn best remotely if we don't overcome that hurdle. So what we believe is that all of our students learn best face-to-face. With that being said, last year we had to set up satellite learning sites in which we partnered with our churches, and we called them learning pods. And we had 6 strategically learning pods that we had to help curtail that mobility problem, the mobility challenge that we were facing. So we were able to get kids to their local church. We were able to send students to that, teachers to that local church and house them, at a ratio of 1 to 10. That helped us tremendously. We also had to, we distributed almost 850,000 meals last year. I mean, we had to run a separate bus service just to administer meals. And when you're living in a place like Halifax, which is tier 1, you know, overcoming the food insecurity is also a major issue here. So we had to use our bus system to not only deliver packets to students, we also had to deliver meals and other essential items like learning materials on a regular basis throughout our community. And now I just let Dr. Williams pick up.
Yeah, you know, it is the same thing, whether you're in Halifax, whether you're in Gates, or whether you're in Elizabeth City or even in Chowan. We all roll our sleeves up and we do what we have to do. There really is no, like I would say in Gates County, a formal hierarchy of how to do things. You just get out and you just do it. As far as transportation, yes, mobility. I think it's important for any superintendent. Now, I don't know how they do it in the urban areas, but when you're in the small rural America, you get on those buses and you deliver those meals, and you get up on that roof to see if, you know, your school needs shingles and adequate, you know, facilities so that, you know, you don't have leaks and everything. But yeah, you know, you get out on those buses and you learn a lot from those bus drivers about what's actually going on more than you do at a board meeting. And so, you know, I think that there's some advantages and disadvantages that COVID brought to us. And I know Dr. Cunningham would agree with this. You know, with COVID coming, what we had is there was something called a digital inequity. And so that was exposed. And the kids not getting resources, that was exposed. And now the learning loss, that's exposed. And as we see when kids come back to school, teachers are going to have to work even harder to get kids back to where they are with the grades they're in. And so the good thing, you can say, well, what, are you crazy? What's good about ESSER? Well, you know what? I mean, what's good about it? We got the ESSER funds. So we got a lot of money where we could purchase some good things. Like I was able to order over 800 and some Chromebooks for my students. And that would not have happened. I would not have gotten funding from the state, from the feds, or anybody to obtain that many connectivity devices. We put those little things on buses, and we parked buses in strategic areas throughout the county so that kids could get on the internet and get their assignments. Also, just like Dr. Cunningham, we had remote instruction, but you know, it was a task, but you know what? We remained positive. I thought we did really well. I think our teachers are heroes. I think our employees should all have more than just a pat on the back. I would like to see, you know, money come to our employees who really worked hard, who didn't give up, who were just like our healthcare workers out there that didn't stay home. They put their lives on the line to come to make sure that, you know, our kids got an education. So yeah, mobility in small rural America, you've got to do that.
Well, Dr. Williams, you made some very good points. I will say that we know that out of our 1.6 public North Carolina school children, approximately 290,000 of them prior to the pandemic did not have internet access. And out of that 290,000, there's a high percentage that do not have internet access at home because they live in an area where there is no cellular service and there is no fiber or broadband available to them. So that is an ongoing challenge. If there is a bright side of what happened over the last year, it is that, and much to Dr. Williams' point, there was funding that was made available for devices. And if you were a student that lived near cellular service hotspots, we distributed over 150,000 hotspots through partnerships. One was with the governor's office, NC Hometown Strong. And we also used the DPI portion of the CARES Act funding to distribute hotspots and student devices and teacher devices during that. So there's the good news. We do have some sustainability, because we were able to put devices, but we still have the ongoing challenge of the homework gap. And that is really, really prominent in the far east of the state, eastern parts of the state, and particularly in the west and the far west part of the state, where there just is no solution because there's no cellular service available. And even to the families where we distributed cellular hotspots, a hotspot has to work off a cell phone signal or cell phone tower, if you will. Even our families experienced some frustration. We had superintendents and chief technology officers report to us that they would bring them back to the school because they get a little frustrated with how slow it works. So there is some, it was a Band-Aid in the use in emergency period, but we know it's not a permanent solution. Permanent solution is that we have to have connection for all of our teachers, all of our students, and quite frankly, every household. Certainly the implications are tremendous for education. 75% of the teachers reported on our North Carolina Teachers Working Conditions Survey that students need internet access to be successful in their classrooms. But we also know that all of our residents in North Carolina need access to telemedicine, as well as other economic opportunities that are presented to them, particularly for work from home situations that are much more prevalent now if they do have access. So one of the things that we are partnering with many partners over is how to increase that access to our students. And another thing that's made it really difficult is, and particularly for school systems to understand how students have connectivity, sometimes it's very hard for students to express that they have consistent connectivity. Some students will say, yes, I'm connected, but they're connected when they go to grandma's house, but they're not connected when they go home. Or if they are from a split family, that changes for them. They also feel like if they can get on their phone and do something, they're connected, but they also don't realize that they might not have the bandwidth that they need to, upload assignments or watch a video that's been assigned to them. So it's hard for folks to express that. And I do think it's something that we have to be very aware of and be aware that there's still many students that don't have connectivity. And we also have teachers that live in rural areas, and the only way they can connect is in their school building. And so it's certainly something that we are continuing to work on. And we've got several pilots that I can discuss later today during our round talk of some novel connectivity programs that we're working through that I can share later on today.
We join you in that effort to provide connectivity. It is a laborious process, and just know that Roanoke Connect Holdings is doing as much as we can and as quickly as we can to help with the process. We feel the pain. We know that the parents and the students need that connectivity, and work with you to help get that. I want to make a plug on something that, in case folks listening don't know about it, I ask that we all spread the word. In areas where there is connectivity, I think the travesty would be to have connectivity and then not be able to afford it. Just know that there is a program that is actively out there now called the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, EBB program. And it allows parents to apply for funding. $50 per month can go towards your broadband connectivity. And it's just a matter of applying. You can find it. If you need support or information about it, just call us at Roanoke Connect, and we can certainly get you pointed in the right direction to get that. We need everybody taking advantage of that who is eligible for it if affordability is an issue. So we talked about connectivity. We've talked about mobility. Let's talk about masks and this could be a quick conversation. What's the deal with masks? And if you want to share, Dr. Wrenn, I'll start from a state perspective. If you want to share, what would you like to share with everybody about mask wearing and the state policy on that?
I will just start by saying that is not under my purview here at DPI, but I do know this. We are following the North Carolina DHHS guidance and guidance coming out of Dr. Mandy Cohen's visits of office. And it has primarily been left up that it's recommended to wear a mask, but each local board can make that final decision if they are requiring masks or not. And I know we've seen school districts that will require masks, some that will not. And we do feel like it's important for a local area to make that decision. But the guidance is it's recommended to wear a mask.
Dr. Cunningham?
Well, I'll just start with a quick story so everyone can understand the why. I entered this business in the early 90s, and I was a young coach, wide open, running out there, working with kids. And I can remember, and to those coaches out there, that if you get a bloody nose, we would actually sprint out there and we'll pinch the top of the nose, right? But then all of a sudden I got tackled going out there to help a child. I turned around and said, "What you doing, coach?" He says, "You can't do that anymore." I said, "Why?" He said, "HIV." See, I had not attended my bloodborne pathogen training, so I wasn't taking universal precautions. So move forward to today. See, I don't see this as anything differently from what we had to do in the 90s. We had to implement universal precautions and treat everyone like they were positive for HIV then. Now it's coronavirus here. And all we're asking, put your gloves on like we did it then and wear your mask now. I never go into my office and debate my doctor on how to take care of myself. I listen and I do as he tells me. So I have taken that stance and here and said, whatever the physicians and, staying aligned to the NC Strong Toolkit and the local health director, and what they tell us to do is exactly what I believe we should do, because that is their expertise, not mine. Mine is teaching and learning. And so I lean heavily on those who are adequately trained to guide us to get to the other side. So we have a mandatory mask mandate. Parents are compliant, kids are compliant. Like I said, we're going to be offering weekly COVID testing. And then we're also going to be administering the vaccine to those who need it.
Thank you. Dr. Williams?
Yes, sir. And I think that Dr. Cunningham and we just echo one another. But what I have right here in my hand, this is the Strong Schools Toolkit. And on page 9, it tells you exactly the things that you have to do to make sure that your students are safe. So any superintendent or any leader has student safety as the #1 priority in any school system. And so we follow that, and it's an easy guide. And this is on page 9. And the school board in Gates County, they voted for universal masking, and that's what we do. And since Dr. Cunningham told a story, I can tell a story too. When I worked on the railroad, you had to wear ear protection and you had to wear eye protection. And you also had to wear foot protection. And if you didn't do that, those big old railroad cars, they don't care about you. They'll just run right over you and cut you in half. Or the sound is so loud that it will hurt your eardrums and you can go deaf, not temporarily, but permanently. So you have to do what you have to do to make sure that you're in compliance. And to me, and this is just me, and I don't know, Dr. Wrenn or Dr. Cunningham, you can agree or disagree, but it seems like we live in a I'll do what I want to do society. And so maybe some people don't want to drive 55, maybe they want to drive 85. No, you can't do that. you have rules, you have things. And so in Gates County, we'll be in compliance with the Strong Schools Toolkit. That is one good way to mitigate the spread of this deadly virus, which is, we've seen across the world that how bad it really is. So that's the Gates County perspective, Doc.
Thank you. And Patrice, keep me honest on the time. I know we try to keep these to within an hour. This is such a rich conversation. How much more time do we have? I've gone over time yet.
No, you're good, Mr. Wrenn, because actually you're answering those questions that parents, even some students may have, and staff. So this is good. You got about 10 more minutes. We'll bring it on in, and then for the other speakers.
Perfect. I see Dr. Wright on the call, on the you were on the screen a few minutes ago. You're Hertford County. Dr. Wright, I want to get your take on this. I'm going to step outside of protocol for a minute. Folks who work with me know that I'm prone for doing that, but don't want to leave you out. If you're nearby, if you want to come on.
Yes, sir, I am. Somebody cut my video off, but anyway.
Just tell us what you're doing with the mask situation, and I just want to ask you that one question. If
Sure.
Hertford County for.
Sure. So just as my colleagues have said, we, Hertford County Board of Education, several weeks ago, actually, voted to continue with 100% masking for our students and staff. We just understand the seriousness of what's going on with the Delta variant and the fact that it appears that the numbers are going back up. And so a lot of people have not thought about this, but in the best case scenario you can have, you would only have about 50% of your student population vaccinated because everybody 12 and under can't be vaccinated. So the reality is you're really going to end up with about 80%, 80 to 85% in most school districts where students will not be vaccinated starting the school year. So for us, the masking is a necessity. It's not just something that we want to do because we want people to follow the rules. It's a necessity, we feel like, because it's extra protection for our students. If 80 to 85% of our students are not masked, and that's not even talking about the grown people, we just see it as a necessity. So it is to be reviewed by the toolkit that Dr. Williams discussed. School boards are supposed to review that every so often to see if it still works, but our board was very proactive in doing the 100% masking.
Thank you.
To start with. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Wright, for jumping in with us. If you do have questions that we may not be answering, help us out by doing this. We might not get around to it, but we will be sure to take them off of the chat and seek the answer and get it back to, I think we may have a way to get it to everyone who was on the call today or on the Zoom call. So bring your questions in, we'll look at them. If we'll try to get a chance to answer those. If we don't, we'll do our best to get the answers posted somewhere, like on our website or something. Let me shift to a scenario here. Things happen. So in the unfortunate event that someone has tested positive and you have to deal with that, can you tell us maybe how you're going to mitigate that situation, and what are going to be some of the basic steps that you take if you see, number one, a single incident, or if it gets even worse and you start seeing multiple occasions of folks testing positive? Have any contingencies been established? So if anyone wants to take that on, I won't call on anybody. So if anyone who wants to jump in, just go ahead and take that one for us.
Well, I'll start first. In Halifax County, if you go to the Halifax County webpage, and because I'm really big into Lean Six Sigma, so when you go in to the Halifax County webpage, www.halifax.k12.nc.us, and you click on the reopening of school page, you will then be taken to a new page, which has a lot of process matters. What we had to do in Halifax was to establish the ground rules on how we are going to deal with this new normal. And what we did was create logical, consistent steps. So if someone tests positive, we have a flow chart for that. We have a flow chart on how we're cleaning buses every day. We have flow charts on how we're going to clean classrooms now. And so with this library of process maps that are loaded on our website, we now can ask all of our employees to abide by them. See, the word in Halifax County this year is coherence. One sound, one voice. We now have developed all of this structure and this infrastructure that everyone can follow, and that it's open for public consumption, that is used every day. I mean, that can be amended every day. So what I wanted to do first was to establish clear processes to deal with when a child is positive. One of the reasons why we're testing weekly is so that we will know for sure who's positive and who isn't. And then we can move them to remote and still keep face-to-face in-person going on. And we hope that moving through that asteroid belt, where we have all of this uncertainty, we will keep everyone safe.
Thank you, Dr. Cunningham. I did have a follow-up question from the mask. I'll go back to that. And then what we'll do is just go into a real lightning round and get each of you to just give us some closing comments that you'd like to share with the group today. So the question was, what disciplinary action is taken if someone doesn't comply with the mask requirement? Now that gets a little sticky, but if anyone wants to take that on as an example of what would happen, welcome you to go ahead and do that.
I try to respond, if I may, just really quickly in the chat. But the answer to the question is we'll work with students to try to get compliance, just like we do with any other rule or policy violations. Anybody that tells you, and I commend my colleague and fraternity brother for having a plan, but anybody tells you that they got this thing figured out in terms of what we're going to do and how we're going to handle it, hadn't been in it. We've already had the early college open since August 5th, and we've got things in place, just like Dr. Cunningham said, but you still have to deal with this stuff on an individual basis. Because here's the problem. Even if we have put a plan in place, we're requiring mask wearing, we want kids to wear masks, mom and daddy may be telling them at home that mask wearing is not essential. So we have to deal with trying to get compliance a little bit differently if mom and dad are not in support of what we're trying to do in school. So that's the challenge that we're having. But obviously we're going to work, try to get compliance. If it becomes excessive or whatever, then there are other measures that we would take like we would with any other rule or policy violation. We are providing, I guess everybody probably doing this too, we are providing every student that attends our school district 5 additional masks per student. So we already gave them 5 back when we were under the rotational plan at the beginning of school, but now we're issuing those again. So we're trying to mitigate, the reasons why a student would not have masking, and we're just having to monitor and request and remind and so forth like we would with anything else. I mean, that's the realistic answer to your question, Mr. Wrenn.
I appreciate that, Dr.
Yes,
Wright.
sir.
And if any of the other superintendents, other couple of superintendents have anything much outside of that, just let us know before we go to the closing comments, as we're getting real close on time here.
Yeah, Dr. Wynn, yes, just to follow up, this isn't something that Dr. Wright and Dr. Cunningham and I did just to say that we're doing something. Here in Gates County, we came up with a plan C when we had to operate on plan C. And then we come up with a plan B, and we diagnosed everything. And then you know what? We came up with a plan A. And then after we had the plan A, I got into writing so many plans, I came up with we're gonna move forward plan. So the toolkit explicitly states that if you got a kid, it tells you the diagnosis, the symptoms, and if you can return to school or not return to school. So that's your quarantine. So it's all written down. And this is on our website too, as well as it is on Hertford and Halifax websites. So parents have that easy access. And with mask wearing, we're going to work with any kid, but you have to wear that mask so that you don't spread. We do give additional masks, but there are situations where if you have a medical condition, and you can take that mask off when you're eating, or when you're answering a question in the classroom, when you're speaking or presenting to an audience, you can take that mask off, or when you're outdoors. But we want to make sure that everybody gets a good education and everybody is safe in a good, conducive learning environment. We all know that.
Awesome. All right, this is it. We're pretty much out of time, and I'll start with you, Dr. Wrenn. 1 sentence takeaway for all 4 of you, if you would. What do you want to leave with the group today? Just 1 sentence, if you would.
No child should not have connectivity where it's available because of money. We have solutions for every child who's in a family that cannot afford connectivity. If they've got it where they live, we can make it happen.
Thank you. Dr. Cunningham.
We know what to do. The question is, do we have the will to do it? We know what to do. The question is, do we have the will to do it? And I say the time is right to make big changes across our educational platform.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Wright.
I'm gonna go religious for a minute. These are praying times. That's my comment.
Amen. Amen. All right, Dr. Williams, bring us home.
Okay, so maybe I may do 2 or 3 sentences, but there's a lot of research on being positive and the effects of being positive, and also the negative effects of being negative. And the research says that it pays to be positive. You're going to have enhanced health, longevity, happiness, career advancement, athletic support, team building, and we're going to get through this situation just like we have got through situations before our time.
Thank you. Thank you all. If we were in the same room, I would ask everybody to give you all a standing ovation for your insight, your comments, and just your commitment to our students, to our communities, and to this entire region. So hats off to all of you, and thank you so much for your time. Now you see why I said earlier that every time I have a bad day, my whole outlook on life brightens up when I put myself in your shoes. You got a lot to deal with. So thank you so much for your participation. Next, on the agenda, I want to do an introduction, and this relates to education. I was introduced to an organization recently called My Future NC, which is a statewide nonprofit that's focused on educational attainment, and as a result of cross-sector collaboration between North Carolina leaders in education, business, and government. And recently, the organization hired Dr. Angie Jenkins, who is the My Future NC Regional Impact Manager for this region, the Northeast and the North Central regions. I want to just make sure you know who she is, and just call on Angie just to give us just give us a few words, Dr. Jenkins. We don't have to do the slides this time. We're going to feature you in a future event, but just show your face if you would, and just give us a few words so that everybody can know who you are and hear your voice.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Wynn. First, I have to give a correction. I'm not quite Dr. Jenkins yet. I have 1 more year, and then, we can freely use that title. But I'm so honored to be a part of this conversation. It's such an important conversation. My name is Angie Jenkins. I am the Regional Impact Manager for My Future NC. I'm currently working with the Northeast and the North Central regions. And if you've heard much about My Future NC, it's come out of a commission and say, hey, we realize as North Carolinians, if we continue to do the same things for the next couple years as it relates to educational attainment, then we're going to get the same results, meaning we're going to have a shortfall. Our occupations are growing much faster than the rate of getting individuals with a high quality credential or degree. And so that's what the commission is coming out of My Future NC. And so we're working with local area collaboratives to help reach that goal. And so we have 2 collaborators in the Northeast, just really quickly. And one of those is coming out of Elizabeth City State University. Really excited about that. They'll partner with, working with Pasquotank, Washington County, and Toro County. And so hopefully the goal is to reach all 100 counties. But here in the Northeast, we're really looking forward to working with our counties that have made applications, and just hopefully they'll be in on the next round. So don't want to go too far over my time, Mr. Wynn. Thank you for allowing me to just connect with everyone and say, hey, if you have any questions, I'm available for you to reach out to. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Another great resource for the region. And you're closer to your PhD than I am. I've got about 20 more years before I get to mine. So I want to make that same correction. I'm certainly not a doctor. I know Dr. Williams referred to me that way a few times, but that's not the case. Probably nowhere in my future, but I do want to make that correction.
Yes,
So
sir.
to keep the program going and stay within our hour for Power Hour, I'm going to call on my colleague, Melissa Smith, who is our broadband sales coordinator, to give you an update on our broadband initiative. Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. And thank everyone for joining today. Due to time restraints, I will go through this a little bit more rapidly than I normally do. But if anybody would like a copy, please put it in the chat and we will send it to you. Next slide. So my job here at Roanoke Connect is getting in touch with everybody and let everybody know when we are bringing high-speed internet to their area. So currently we have 1,100 homes with broadband internet. We have completed the install to the homes in our Jackson 1 and Conway area. Crews are finishing up the installations in Mapleton, and then we're also working in our Orlando, Paducah, and now joining that phase as of today is Eason's. So we are in all those three areas right now working on anybody who is interested in having Roanoke Connect, getting their account set up and diligently working to get them installed to their homes as quickly as possible. Next slide. Right here is our Paducah phase. Here are some of the roads that we are going to be providing internet to. So if you know anybody that lives on any of these roads or anybody on the call that is on this road, we have tried to contact you. We may not have a good working number. And if you have registered at RoanokeConnect.com, we have sent you an email for the email address that you have posted up there. But as such, if you have not heard from us, please reach out to us and we will be glad to go over what options you have and get you set up. Next slide. We wanted to add this slide because we are very aware here at Roanoke Connect of a lot of homes not having high speed or the proper internet to work from home or to have school from home. So last year we set up a lot of hotspots around the area, trying to do our part to help our children as well as parents that may not have internet. These are free hotspots. So if you look here, I have actually two slides. I think it's 13 hotspots that we have all over our counties. Of course, our Roanoke Electric Cooperative on Highway 561, our main office is a hotspot. So all you'd have to do is pull into our parking lot. You can sit there freely and connect to the hotspot internet and be able to do anything you need to. At the Roanoke Center here in Rich Square, as well as the other ones you see listed, we have them in Windsor, Roanoke Rapids, your Halifax. Next slide. Gaston, Hollister, Enfield, another one in Enfield, Scotland Neck, Northampton, and then all 5 Halifax County schools. Next slide. So here I just wanted to put up, we do have several price plans, and these are the price plans that we currently offer. We have Platinum, which is 1 gig of service. Next slide. That is the highest and goes all the way down to your Essential Home service for $49.99. Next slide. So questions and answers. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. If I can't answer them directly, they will email them to me. So please put your email address or phone number, and then I can reach out to you directly. That is my update for Roanoke Connect. And everyone on the call, please know that we are doing our best to get everyone and all our member owners connected as soon as we possibly can with our internet service. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Wynn.
Thank you, Melissa. Again, we'll remind you that the chat box is open for questions, and I'm done with my portion for this today. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Patrice.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn, and definitely thank you all to our panelists on the roundtable discussions. This was definitely great information today. The meeting has been recorded and it will be viewable on our website and social media page. So again, once it's posted, go ahead on and share it. If you have a social media page, any kind of content, please share it with your family, friends, local community members out there, because this was definitely a great discussion. I know as a grandparent myself, I had concerns about my grandkids and returning back to school, and I know a lot of other parents have as well. But this is where you hear it from. So please post it via social media once we post it on our social media page. And I do thank everyone for attending. We had a great turnout, great engagement. It's definitely good for us to stay connected with our community, with our member owners and local community members. So we are right here at our time, 2:59. We stand within the hour here, right at Roanoke Electric Cooperative. So thank you all for joining again. Have a great day. And as always, stay safe.